Say my name. I am awake. I am the danger. I am the one who knocks.
Welcome to the next episode. This is Breaking into Breaking Bad with Clifford and Caleb Humphrey. Today, we're breaking into Season 4, Episode 10, Salud. Cabes, would you please do us the honors of giving us a brief summary of what happens in this episode for those who have not seen it in a while?
I'd love to. I have to say this one's top 5 in my book as far as the whole show goes. This was just an amazing episode. Such a big climax with the whole cartel and Gus's operation. Starts out with a very nervous-looking Jesse with Mike and Gus getting picked up by the cartel in an airplane somewhere out in the middle of the desert. And they get flown to the cartel's warehouse where Jesse is basically put right on the spot to make meth. And there's some back and forth there. That's Jesse really does a really good job of holding his own, being that he doesn't have Walt to rely on. And that was really fun to watch. On the home front, we have Skyler doing some crazy things with Saul to appease the IRS through Beneke's problem that she's trying to assist with. Remember, he owes about $600,000 to the IRS, and so she takes it upon herself and gets Saul to help out to give the money to Beneke through a passing of a will from an old Aunt Birgit, I believe was her name, somewhere out in Germany that Beneke falls for and accepts the money and decides not to use it to pay the IRS back, but to buy a new Mercedes. So we'll see how that develops on. And then we see some, we'll definitely get into it. But if you remember in the end of the last episode, Walt and Jesse got into it pretty hardcore. They had a really big fight, and Walt Jr., it's his birthday, he turned 16. Skyler gives him a new car. It's not the same car that he was going to get, but he's sad that his dad's not there. He goes to find his dad in a really messed up from the night prior, and it all boils down to comes in essence. Saul poisons all of the cartel bosses, including the main guy. And they escape, and that's where it ended. So there was a lot of action in this one. Can't wait to break into it.
Yeah, no, this was an extremely entertaining episode. So if you haven't seen it, this is definitely one you want to go back and rewatch, just because there's so much going on. The title is called Salud, and it becomes pretty clear at the end what that's referring to. And as you already mentioned, Gus finds a way to poison all of the main guys in the leadership of the cartel. And there's the scene where he puts it in a bottle of tequila and they toast and they say Salud. And they don't know, but they're drinking to their own death. So it's kind of an ironic, because Salud means, do you know what it means, Cabes?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell everyone.
Yeah, no, let me tell. It means health. It means to your health.
Yeah.
But literally, they were drinking to their death. So
how about that?
There's some playful irony there.
Mm-hmm.
So as you already mentioned in the intro, we have Gus and Mike and Jesse flying down to Mexico. It was funny. I mean, it's a mix of, Jesse's scared for his life on one hand. On the other hand, he's bossing everybody around and telling them what to do. And he lets us know that he doesn't really know what he's doing. When he says he needs a barrel of some chemical, he says, "Look, I just know to get the one that has the B on it, and that's how I know what it is."
Right.
And we're reminded that really Walt's the one who should be there. Walt is the true cook. and all Jesse knows how to do is up, put a gallon of this and a cup of that, and he's following directions. He's not the one who understands the nature of the thing. And the Mexican chemist figures that out pretty quickly, but he can't really argue with the hierarchy that's there. Right? It doesn't matter if Jesse doesn't know chemistry, as Jesse reminds him, your boss flew me down here and to cook my meth, and so I'm going to do that. It doesn't matter if I don't know some of the basic terms. You still have to do what I say.
Right. Sorry, it was interesting on the plane right over there. It looked like Jesse was super nervous, and Gus was kind of trying to calm his nerves. I wonder why, because the way Gus presents himself, very professional, top of the line, everything. I'm wondering why he didn't try to at least dress up Jesse to somewhat look the part. Like, he just still came across like this kid off the street.
Yeah, right. Why risk so much with Jesse? I mean, he could have said anything. He could have done anything to really embarrass them. I don't know why he didn't bring Walt. He could have brought Walt, who could have impressed the socks off them with all of his, knowledge of chemistry and all that.
He can't control Walt. He doesn't own Walt. He can control Jesse, or at least he feels like he can control Jesse. And he's been working with Jesse this whole time. Walt, I feel like he just...
It reveals something interesting because Gus obviously had to do a calculation, right? If he brings Walt, there's some pros and cons that come with bringing Walt. You bring Jesse, there's different pros and cons. And for whatever reason, he thought I'd rather have Jesse. And that to me is a strange calculation because, like you said, anything could have happened. And his appearance, he just doesn't come across as someone. And we learn eventually that it was a ruse. The whole thing was a ploy. But if you're wanting to pull the wool over somebody's eyes, you got to make it look believable,
right?
But then there's that part right before they toast where he says, he's an addict. You don't want to give him any.
Right. Oh, no, none for you.
Yeah, and at first, I kind of understand. In hindsight, it makes sense, right? He's actually saving him from getting the poison because he doesn't. Right. Because he doesn't know. Obviously, we find out that Mike knows and Gus knows, obviously, but he doesn't know. So he plays along. I guess we have to assume they didn't offer Mike any. Either.
Right. Well, or the Mike of the cartel, the guy that Mike actually had to strangle to death. He didn't have it either.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a small bottle relatively, from all the people that were there. So maybe that was it. But anyway, Jesse successfully cooks a very pure product. What's it, like 94.6%?
96, pure? I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's really proud of that. And it shows, he's learned how to do Walt's recipe really well. And the kicker is the cartel is so impressed. They're like, very good, amigo. You will stay here now the rest of your life and cook this, And he's like, wait, what? Yeah. So he's not happy about that. It's still amazing to me. Maybe this goes back to your point. I want to know, why didn't they just tell Jesse, hey, here's what's going to happen. When this happens, this is going to happen. And you need to be ready to do this just in case this happens. They don't tell him any of that, which tells me they don't trust him at all. They still think he's extremely incompetent, which at the end of the scene, he's the one who saves them.
Right.
When he shoots the cartel Mike.
So I think either one, they don't fully trust him enough to tell him the entire plan, or two, they just didn't want to scare him. They wanted to give him just enough information like, hey, listen, all you got to do is just show some chemists how to cook the blue. That's it. But his face when they said, "Oh, you work here for us now," it was just pure fear. Like he was just, and Mike made him, I guess calmed his fear a little bit when he said, "Jesse, I'll tell you this, or I promise you this much: we're either all getting out of here, or none of us are." But still,
Right.
that even that is still kind of scary.
Well, I'm thinking of how this probably, seemed to Mike. I mean, Gus cooked this plan up and told him. He probably thought this is crazy. And then when he's sitting there at the pool, he's already watching and thinking, okay, how's this going to go down? He's probably thinking, yeah, we're probably not going to get out of here. Like, this plan is too crazy. Too many things could go wrong. There's too many people here who have not, had the poison.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, if I'm Mike, I'm thinking Gus has got us all killed, and your fears, Jesse, about having to work for the cartel the rest of your life are the least of our worries. But
Right.
anyway, so we've kind of jumped from the beginning, from the intro to the end.
Yeah.
But that scene is such an important one. It doesn't matter if we kind of stay on it a little bit, I guess. I thought it was interesting when the first glimpse we see of all of them there at the estate, you see Gus standing by the pool looking down into the water. And of course, he's got to be thinking of his partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was it, 10 years before? Was it that many years?
Well, no. And I picked up on this, and I'm sure I picked up on it a long time ago.
Took you 14 times, but you finally picked up
just forgot about it. But do you remember the conversation between not Don Hector, sorry. Is it Don Juan? The main guy. And Gus, when he says every 20 years I got to, remind you of put you in your place. So this was a 20-year in the making revenge game that Gus has been putting together for so long to cripple and destroy the cartel's operation in America. And I mean, golly, 20 years is when he first came there to him. So it's I thought that was pretty crazy.
Well, I don't think he was planning it the whole time. He wanted to avoid it. Remember, he wanted them to just stay out of his business.
True.
But they insisted. So I don't think he was planning that revenge for the whole 20 years. But I think you're right. When the opportunity presented itself, he wasn't, because I remember thinking, this is a bad deal, Gus. Why are you doing this? You're going to give them your product and you're going to pay them all this money with zero guarantee that they're just going to go away. And we talked about it. Like, this seems like a bad deal. Why would he do this? Obviously, the only reason he would do it is if he thought, well, my only shot is to get rid of them. And this is the way I'm going to make it seem like I'm willing to play along. But I think your point is well taken here, is that he was probably helped in making that very difficult decision, which is takes courage. Mm-hmm. He was probably helped by a desire for revenge.
Right.
And thought, not only is this, the best option, the best choice forward, but I also get to assuage my vengeance.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he risks everything. I mean, so many scenarios could have happened coming out of there that would have led, with his death. So,
right.
When the episode ends, Mike has got shot, he's wounded, and Gus might not survive the poisoning.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy to me that he wasn't, when he closed the bathroom door, that he didn't just rush in there and start throwing up. He's like, let me fold every towel I can find to make sure this place looks immaculate, and then I will start gagging myself.
Well, and we don't know how much time passes between when he gets the shot of tequila,
right,
and when but he's extremely at ease. And in fact, the only time he does go to the bathroom, it looks like he's just made very uncomfortable by the Don Juan talking with him.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why he goes. He doesn't seem like, oh my gosh, I'm dying right now if I don't do this right now, which tells us something important, I think, about Gus's character. I mean, it was almost psychopathic. I mean, like, just removed from human reality about how humans think and operate. Like you said, when he goes into the bathroom, he takes his coat off and he folds it neatly on the counter, and he gets the towel and puts it on, for his knees, and like he's in no rush, and yet he knows that he's in imminent danger. And that's just not how normal human beings operate. I mean, it's way too rational.
It's very robotic.
Very robotic. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if that just means that Gus really is kind of a psychopath or what, but
I mean, you kind of see his behaviorisms, how he handles Pollos Hermanos, the way he, just operates there. He's just a very careful and meticulous person. But yeah,
it almost makes me believe that, when Hank puts the tracker on his car and it just goes from his home to the
right.
Like, that's exactly how that guy would do. But remember, Hank was like, there's no way he's that clean. Like, he's fake. That's there's no way he's really like that. But then we see him in this scene and he's not faking it. There's no audience. There's no one watching him there in the bathroom. That's how he is, right? Yeah. Like, he's actually like that when no one's watching. So anyway, we've learned a lot about Gus. We've learned he's more ruthless than we realized. Even after the box cutter scene, which told us a lot, now we see this guy is willing to go to great lengths to do whatever it takes.
We always talk about how Walt views Jesse as a father-son scenario. I almost got that feeling a little bit when it showed Gus's face while Jesse was ordering all the chemists around, like, all right, we're going to clean this, we're going to clean that, and only then we'll start cooking. You could tell Gus was very impressed, and I got that same, like, just for a little bit, that father-son, like, I'm proud of you. Like, wow, I'm impressed type of thing. But very, very, for very short period of time.
Well, we know, obviously, that's Walt's influence there on Jesse, because he would never have done that before. But it just shows how much time has passed and how much influence Walt has had on Jesse.
Yeah.
Well, we might as well just finish out this scene. So everybody starts feeling the effects of the poison and kind of keeling over. And Gus yells out in Spanish to all the people who are in the house, look, Don Juan is dead. And all the other guys, his Praetorian Guard, this is your chance to get away. You might as well stuff your pockets with as much as you can and get out of here. Was really smart, really bold. I mean, the whole thing was very, very bold. But it might have been their only option, given how much power the cartel had over them. So then they have to shoot their way out when there's the one guy left, and he's not going to go down without a fight. And for whatever reason, it's important to the show that we see that Jesse's the one who shoots him. And I just don't see Jesse as the kind of guy who puts in the hours at the range, learning how to be accurate with a handgun. It's very hard to do that. We know when Hank shoots Tuco so many episodes back, he does it from a position of, really high training, high level training. He's done that a lot. Jesse has not shot much at all in his life. And here he shows up and he takes a kill shot from, a pretty significant distance. And
he does empty the clip though. Like it was more of a sporadic, like, bah, 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 like he wasn't.
Well, people would say that's how you do it. Now you want to be able to have extra magazines that you can put in.
Sure. Yeah. No, if there's a cartel in front of me and he's shooting at me, I don't think I'm going to, take time in between each shot. I'll probably empty it pretty quick.
Right. Yeah. But it definitely was a scene that demonstrates this wasn't set up by Gus, to make Jesse feel like he was really important and really doing something. Yeah. Right. Jesse actually shows up here, and Gus now does owe Jesse, and so does Mike. Owes them their lives. So
yeah. What did he say? Get us out of here, kid.
Yeah. Right. So I don't think there's anything else to say about that scene. but it was definitely a dramatic one.
Yeah.
Well, going from there to Skylar, kind of in an opposite way. Skylar, is always interested in safety, and so she gets Walt Jr. the safest car she could find. And is it purple? It looks like it's purple. Maybe it's a blue.
I think it's a dark, probably a dark blue, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we won't go into the purple conspiracies then, but the main thing is that she got him a car that she is convinced is really safe. And we're reminded that that's one of her top priorities. And he hates it. Like, he clearly hates it.
Or he just really loves pancakes. Either one.
Right. Because she makes him pancakes and she says, but before that, why don't you go take your new car for a spin? And he's like, thanks. I think I'd rather just have the pancakes. Yeah. Maybe. But my point was, there's a strong contrast between Gus being bold and not being safe, drinking the poison, and then Skylar trying to create this environment of safety. So she's doing that. And then I don't know if it's coming from the similar place where she's trying very hard to keep the IRS from prying into her file, because she knows that there's a lot that can be found there with their money laundering scheme. So is it a desire for safety from the IRS that leads her to want to come up with this scheme to pretend to will some money to Ted? The whole thing seemed really stupid to me. Why didn't she just tell him, hey, you're going to get some money and it's going to seem like it's coming from, some relative who died that you don't know about. You need to know it comes from me, and you need to spend it in this way. And if you don't, there's going to be hell to pay. She could have told him that. Why does she leave it up to chance? She could have had Saul basically tell her in the privacy of his office there.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's gained by keeping it all under, a complete ruse. The ruse is not meant to fool Ted. The ruse is meant to fool the IRS.
Yeah. But I mean, even Gus came in and not Gus, even Saul came in and did his "I told you so" approach. But he said, listen, you were right. All he saw was the zeros. He didn't think about the story at all. And he just seems completely it's no big deal. But she's obviously very frightened of the IRS. It's like she's had prior experiences with him before.
Right. Yeah. Ted's a good guy. I mean, I think he genuinely does care about his employees, and he wants to give them back jobs. And, he's a little bit vain, I suppose. He goes and buys that really nice Mercedes and all that. But I mean, the guy just felt like he was riding high on good fortune. It doesn't occur to him somehow that the money he received was like the exact amount that he needed for his taxes, right?
Yeah.
He's just going to write that off as a coincidence, I guess. But my point is, he's a decent guy. And so when he gets this money, he's not thinking, I'm just going to pay off all the taxes and then, call it good. He wants to try and be a little bit risky and start his business up again with all the risks that come with that. And he's willing to risk the IRS wrath on top of that. So I guess it's just a miscalculation on Skylar's part. And like you said, Saul told her, this is not a good way to go about it. But I'm still, like I said, confused as to why she didn't find a way to just tell him.
I don't know how you tell someone that there's hey, I'm gonna give you $600,000. Don't ask me where I got it, how I have it, but you know what to do with it. I don't know how you approach that story.
It seems clear that she doesn't want Ted to ask her, wait a minute, Skylar, why do you care so much? What are you up to now that you're so afraid of getting attention from the IRS?
Right, yeah.
She doesn't want to have to tell him.
But she does at the end. I mean,
she does, because there's no other options. When she's out of options, when he's like,
right, are you this dumb? Of course it came from me. I showed up on the exact same day that you got it.
Right. Right. All right. Well, let's shift to Walt. So Walt is recovering from his fight with Jesse, and he got beat up pretty bad. And the next day, like you said, is Walt Jr.'s birthday, and so Walt Jr. is wanting to know where he is, and he shows up and he sees his dad, beat up. And this scene was interesting to me. I'm still processing it. Like, I'm not really sure what was going on. But Walt puts on a complete ruse and tells a lie. Says, "Oh yeah, I started gambling again," and he starts crying about it. Like, "I can't believe I did this. Please don't tell your mother." Again, I'm just reminded that Walt is a really bad gangster. He's really bad at being a gangster. Like, why does he care so much about, like, "Oh no, please don't tell Skylar. Like, she'll be so upset with me." Like, who cares? Why does he care so much? It's not like he's desperate to get back into the marriage and have this home life again. Like, he's so beyond that, but he's still controlled so much so that he's willing to put on this whole fake lie. This like, "I'm crying and I'm so upset I can't, and I'm so ashamed of myself because I got back into gambling," which we know he doesn't have a gambling problem. That was even Skylar's idea. So he's even giving her, like, that idea some credibility. The whole thing was just, but it works. I guess we have to admit
it works. Ultimately, I think
Walter Jr. buys it.
I think he wanted to avoid confrontation at all costs because he
confrontation with whom?
With Skylar.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand.
Other people he's okay with having that kind of beef with, but with Skylar, it's the last thing on his mind. He doesn't want to deal with it at all. To the fact that he starts bawling in front of Walt Jr. is just shows he really doesn't want to have that conversation.
But I mean, those were fake tears, right? Or do you think those were real?
No, I think they were fake tears. I think he was like, because it came out right when he said, "I'm going to call Mom," and he was like, "Oh, brother."
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, he's still controlled by her, and that to me is just confusing, or at least it makes it hard for us to respect Walt, even as a bad guy. We don't really respect him as a good guy because we know he's not really a good guy, but we don't even respect him as a bad guy. Like, he's not even good at that.
Yeah. Wives. Crazy.
Crazy. So Walter Jr. also lies to his mom to get him to, be able to stay with his dad for the night. Tells him I was staying the night with Lewis, but he's really there. And he fixes Walt's glasses, which we knew were, broken in the fight with Jesse. And the way they film it, they sort of zoom in on that, and they show that he put the lenses back in the frames. And I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it, but he helps him see straight. He's helping him see things, but we know that he's not. I mean, Walt Jr., I guess maybe the idea is, what is he there for? He's there to help his dad. He's there to help him see straight, but he doesn't see straight. In fact, he confuses his son with Jesse.
Yep.
I mean, it was a really telling scene when he's like half asleep, and Walter Jr. is like, "Anything else I can do for you?" And Walt says, "Thanks, Jesse,"
yeah.
which completely confirms our hypothesis, right? That Jesse is a sort of pseudo son figure in the story. And Walter Jr. doesn't even blink. He doesn't ask him about it. Maybe he will later. I don't know. But in the next day, he doesn't say, "Hey, Dad, it was kind of weird. You called me Jesse. Who's that? What's going on?" Again,
yeah, I loved what Walt Jr. said though.
What's that?
Walt gives him this long-winded story about his last memory of his own father.
Yeah, right.
And he doesn't want Walt Jr. to remember that, regardless of, like, when he's dead and gone. He doesn't want him to remember that as his last thing. And Walt Jr.'s response was, "That was the most real I've seen you be in the last year." And I love that, because it was, at least to the extent that he saw, compared to how Walt has been making up lie after lie after lie after lie for the past year, trying to hide his whereabouts and what he's been up to. Because you don't really see a lot of interaction between Walt Jr. and Walter throughout the last 4 seasons, to the point where they've had this really close one-on-one conversation. And I really liked when Walt Jr. said that, like, that's the most real I've seen you be in forever.
Well, wasn't that ironic though? Because he wasn't being real. The whole thing was fake.
I want to say, like, maybe not all of it. I think it was real up to the point where he started calling when he threatened to call Skylar, because that's when he went into the whole gambling, the whole crying, the whole yada yada yada.
What was before that? I don't even remember what was before that. Was there anything of substance before that?
I mean, he shows up and he's like, "Well, if you're gonna come in." It wasn't like, hey, I was just, I fell and slipped and I was vacuuming and all sorts of, oh man, like it didn't just go
like we've
into
seen
this,
in the past.
Yeah, just over the top storytelling. It was just, you see me in all my glory right now. I'm in whitey tighties and a tank top with a busted up face. Come on in. Like that, I guess that little part was just him just not coming up with some kind of crazy story off the bat, and it was just like, come on in. But then he did fall into the whole storytelling again. So I don't know, maybe it was just a little piece of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. My first thought was, isn't it sad that Walt has lost so much substance of the relationship with his son, that now even the thing that his son thinks is the most real is really itself based on a lie,
right,
and fake. It shows that there's really nothing there. But I don't know. You make some good points that, there's something about Walt not being so reactive and so pathetic the whole time that there is something to that. So I don't know. We'll have to see maybe what happens next and how that develops. So, well, I think that's really it. There's not much else to say. The scene, obviously, with the cartel kind of dominates, and it kind of goes in and out throughout the whole episode, and then it ends on that note with Gus sort of cleaning house and Jesse saving the day.
Yeah, with him driving off, he goes right to credits at that point. So next episode will be pretty good. So yeah, that was a fun one. Well, thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, which we hope you did, please like, share, and subscribe. You got to do all 3 for it to count. You can find these episodes on Apple Podcasts and YouTube, and you could follow and contact us on Twitter. You can reach us at Breaking Into BB. We will see you next time as we break into another episode of Breaking Bad.